Kia ora, welcome back everybody, here with the second part 2 reaction to Mr. Jamie Pennell, NZ Gallantry Star winner and former commander in the New Zealand Special Air Service Regiment, as he's been interviewed by Mr. Damian Porter, the How Not to Die guy, and the host of the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. So let's jump in.
That's a very neat summary, and we're not going to go into non-operational stuff, but neat summary.
You want to go deeper? We can go deeper.
Yeah, and I say that tongue-in-cheek because I'm sure, well, I know why I wanted to join the Special Forces. That was watching the guys in black in the Iranian embassy, and I'm not sure if that was the same thing with you, Jamie, but that's what a lot of us in that era saw, is the guys in black doing the best hostage rescue in history. And actually, on that note, Rusty Furman's show published in a couple of weeks. He was amazing to listen to, that guy. You've done essentially the same thing. How many hostages were there? How many rooms did you have to clear? What went on?
There's 150 rooms inside the hotel. I think there was between, I'm not too sure what the final count of the guests were, anywhere between 60 and 80. There were 9 terrorists.
Yep.
And they killed anywhere between 13 and 20. But yeah, it was, do you want me to go further?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, people listen to this show, given the context of your book, they want to know the details that you are happy to and allowed to let out.
Yeah, sure. So, so like I said, the training team turned up first, the mentors with the CIU, and basically they went into the lobby of the building and held that secure. At the time, when they arrived in the lobby, there was one of the terrorists was dead on the floor, and he was wearing a suicide vest. So clearly we're going to deal with that, and that wasn't by any means, surprisingly, probably to your guests, abnormal. That's just a normal pattern of life with these guys. They'll go on with, heavily armed suicide vests and get on with business. And obviously they're willing to die for their cause and take as many people out as possible. And we've got that in the back of our mind because we've been doing that stuff in the last tour. So they held the lobby, went in there. They started making their way up a little stairway where the lobby was. They went into sort of a bunch of officers, and they instantly got engaged by someone. The CIU, having clear heads, called out to this person to make sure they weren't getting into a gunfight with one of the security guards. Sure enough, it was a security guard that was standing there, and he had killed the terrorist that was lying on the ground. They called him out, and he had pissed himself. Obviously, is that scared, but hats off. Hats off to that guy for holding his ground against this guy, and he reacted pretty quickly. And I'm sure the initial attack was pretty confusing for most. So they pulled him back, and then they basically waited in the lobby for us. I got woken up on our side. I got woken up at about rudely woken up at about 10 o'clock by one of the SIGs. And so I got my slippers on and probably had a dressing gown, I'm not too sure, and, made my way over to the TOC and Tactical Operations Centre. And the senior national officer was standing there in the back of the room, and he said, and I said, "Oh, what's going on?" He said, "Oh, there's been an attack of the Intercon." And I said, "Oh, yeah," and we started talking about numbers and what he wanted us to do, essentially just his intent. And I could see on the screens in front of me, we had ISR coverage over top of the hotel, watching the gun battle from the roof down to the inner cordon. The Afghan National Police had already put in an inner cordon to obviously ring fence it, keep them from getting away. And initially, because we'd been doing this in our last tour, we did a couple of these, not as big, but spectacular attacks. We'd done a couple of spectacular attacks on the last tour, and I think one on the tour before Intercontinental, I'm not so sure. But I just said, "Oh, hey, do you really want us to go down there?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, how many squadrons are down there with the mentors?" And he said, "Oh, there's 2 squadrons down there." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool, about 75. And I said, "You sure you want us to go down there?" And he said, "Yeah, go down there and do what we do, enable them, give them those specialist skills," because they didn't have, at the time, they didn't have the capability to do explosive method of entry or any type of significant sniping capability and some other capabilities that we had for them, just so they could succeed in their mission sets. And so I said, all right, then cool, got the boys together, did a brief, told them we're leaving, gave us a clear hot, and we got in our armoured Land Cruisers and basically race-tracked it down to the Intercon, because Kabul at night, for those that know, been there before, down Highway 7 and through the city, it's all curfewed after 10 o'clock. So you only have to really slow down for the checkpoints, show your card, unless you want to get a few rounds incoming from the local forces, so we know where those are. And then I got on comms with the mentors in the lobby, and I just said, hey, we're inbound. What are you guys up to? Because I wasn't too sure what they're up to between the gap from me leaving and then getting to the hotel. And they said, oh, we're going to wait for you guys. Initially I thought they would have towed it up by the time we got there.
Yeah.
So when they told me that they're waiting for us, it gave me a lot of joy. And obviously for the boys as well, that we're gonna get amongst it with them. So so we turned up, parked our vehicles short of the hotel, made our way up to the incident control point. We were met by the CEO of the CRU and I think the Minister of Interior is there, and then they had some other commanding officers there from the other units that were hanging around, loosely coordinating what was happening in front of them. So talked to them, grabbed 10 guys, and this is all in the book, grabbed 10 of his guys that were going up there as well, made our way up. And just as we got to where the inner cordon was, the gun battle started erupting again. It was quite heavy. We observed, because we didn't want to get drawn in at that point. It's really chaotic. So you don't want to start shooting off to the side of the AMP, because they'll spin around and start shooting back. So you got to make yourself known. You got to have comms. You got to be visible. It's very, very deliberate. So, doing something like this, as we know, is very complicated, but you need to have clear lines of communication about who's where and what they're doing. And that wasn't the case at that particular time with the security forces. So myself and Steve ninja'd up. We left the rest of the team down. We ninja'd up to where we could see the entry point to get into the hotel, and the gun battle was carrying on. And we just got comms with the guys in the lobby and said, hey, where are you guys? Are you guys on the right door, which looks like the main door, or are you on the left door, which looks like a kind of a service door? And lucky we obviously got those comms, because the right door, where it actually looked like where the lobby was, it was under maintenance and no one was actually in there. So it was a bit of a run. It was about 40 metres. So we had to sort of do a bit of a hard target around the back of the AMP, and then sort of run into the lobby one by one. Got in there, did a bit of a handover. All the lights were off. They'd shut all the lights off inside the hotel. We could see the guy lying on the floor dead with a vest on. Got EOD to clear that straight away. Started making a plan with the CRU squadron commanders. But essentially, the CRU, at that point in time, the CRU hadn't been trained in doing option training. And when I talk about option training, we're talking about, in this particular instance, high-rise assault. They hadn't done any of that sort of stuff. They'd done, more rural-based operations, maybe single or double story, mainly, that they just got their MVGs. Some of them had them, some of them didn't. We're still in a transition stage of, developing them to have all their gear ready and making sure everyone's got their stuff and checks and all that kind of checks and balances. So, we immediately had to take the lead in the dark. So we had all our gear. So I got the assault group to lead our one. And they just followed on behind us in support. Went past the internet room, found a person dead in the internet room, one of the guests, and he'd been on the computer. I went and just gave him a quick check, make sure he was, was dead, not still, had a bit of life in him. And he was, just been, his email was still open. He was tapping away, trying to send an email out to wherever. Carried on, just naturally gravitated to the left. We didn't have any plans of the building. I've been there before in 2002 on a close protection task on the back end of one of our operations, but there was a many years later. I was turning up back at the hotel, so I couldn't really remember what it looked like, particularly in the dark. So we naturally gravitated to the left, went into the kitchen, the hotel kitchen, and then out of pure luck, where the kitchen was where the fire stairs were. So
Oh, wow.
Just pure luck. We're looking for them. We didn't quite know where they were, so we sort of made our way around, found it, and started making our way up. Now, first of all, we try to do it we try to do it sequentially, where we're going to start making our way up the stairwell and sort of clearing floor by floor. But because of the amount of fire that was coming off the top of the roof, and you've got to take into account that obviously the Intercontinental have guns, terrorists have guns, they can sort themselves out. But as is always the case, these guys are firing high, and there's a neighbourhood around the hotel, and so a lot of those rounds, and they're firing rockets, rockets off the building as well. We're landing in and around the neighbourhood, so we had to deal with that straight away. So we had to deal with that problem with the small group that we had, keeping in the back of our mind at that particular point, we'd halved our numbers as compared to the first couple of tours, because that's how we were tranching our operational commitment there. We trained them up, but so we had smaller numbers. So started making our way up the stairwell there, getting intermittent comms with our headquarters and that kind of stuff, flying by the seat of our pants a bit there. Started making our way up, and then Steve Askin was leading, as he always is. He's just that type of guy, you know what I'm talking about. He can't help himself. This is why, if I was going to choose my first, if I was going to choose anyone, my first choice would be that guy, because he's a hunter. He wants to get after it. So he started making his way up the stairwell, and I think it was on the 4th floor. He rounded the stairs on the 4th floor, and he came face to face with the first terrorist. They looked at each other, and this sort of happened in a split second, raised their weapons. They both fired at the same time. Steve nailed him. But, this guy was full of adrenaline. He dropped up against the wall and then started sprinting all the way up to the top of the stairwell.
Jesus.
And right at that time, as soon as that first engagement happened, then we started getting a really heavy weight of gunfire from the top of the stairwell there, followed by grenades. And so this barrage began, and I'm not too sure how long we're in there for. It seemed like quite a long time, but the first grenade that was thrown down landed in front of Steve, and because we had our peltals on, if it hits a certain decibel, it just turns off. It'll switch off. It'll just give you that ear protection. Well, the first one, the grenade hit, but we didn't hear it. We didn't hear it hit the concrete, but he yelled out grenade anyway, and then he ran, and then he started running towards the 4th floor opening from the stairs through the fire door out into the 4th floor landing area, the corridor. But it was like the grenade was tied to a string to his body. It just followed him out all the way into the 4th floor. He ran around the corner, and it detonated behind him, and it semi-concussed him and threw, shrapnel into his back arms and legs, I think.
Far out. Hey, sorry I didn't mention this at the start, but if you notice there, I'm trying to let the videos, the interviews, flow a little bit better than what I have been. So I want to just acknowledge and thank those that have been kind enough to put in some really nice suggestions and offering humble advice and guidance to maybe so that I can improve the channel or improve the audience experience. So I've just been taking a whole bunch of notes, bear with me, on the pages there, and then just gotten that far with regards to what I was listening to between Jamie and Damo. So what I thought I might do is see how this goes. Would love to get your feedback. Do I need to stop it more regularly? Is this a better process? So anyway, that aside, that's just a heads up as to why this might seem a little bit different to the other ones, and I'm not interjecting so much. First off, just my reaction to what I've heard so far. My initial thought is, without even having heard the rest of this event yet, because it goes for a little over an hour and a half, is how cool would it be to, and I just jotted down initial information, gearing up. I've got the ISR, I've got their getting amongst it, observing the chaos, ninjas. Just made a whole bunch of bullet point notes, and then I've written down movie from a just not to glorify war or anything like that. That's definitely not the case. But I think where my mind's going with it is in a similar fashion to why Jamie has done his book, Serviceman J. I think that would be awesome to see a visual as well in some form. So thought of like the Taika Waititis of the world. Come on, bro. Maybe what's the name? Chris Hemsworth or Thor plays Steve Askin or Jamie Pennell, or maybe, with all due respect, maybe I've heard Jamie speak about and say that Steve's brother is like a replica or exactly the same as him. Maybe, I don't know, something like that. But that initially comes to mind from my reaction, just listening to what's going on so far, or the early stages of this significant attack that happened at the Intercontinental in Afghanistan. The other parts, in terms of my reaction so far, I'm hearing things around the TOC, the Tactical Ops Center or Operations Center, hearing there's 150 rooms, 60 to 80 guests I managed to write down. Not sure if that's right. Between 20 and 30, I think he mentioned, were killed. Really also wanted to acknowledge Damian Porter, the host of this interview, and just his ability letting it flow. It's like the Sean Ryans of the world, right? And many other awesome hosts of their shows when they have their guests on. So there's a heck of a lot happening. The initial info and the attack, the ISR, that intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance intel and information that they're getting, Jamie's thoughts around, how many squadrons are down there? And there's like 2, and he's like, okay, 75, Are you sure you want us to go down there? Like, what do you need us to go down there for? Like, I think he mentioned he grabbed another, or 10 of their guys. I don't know if that was everybody that they had there, but I'm pretty sure I heard him mention 10 of the Kiwi SAS guys that were going in. Obviously, Steve being one of those, giving them a brief, and then they're in their armoured vehicles, Land Cruisers, and like you said, gunning it or racetracking it down. Curfews are interesting. Yeah, you don't want to get brassed up. If you're out after curfew, you definitely want to have comms so that you're not having any blue-on-blue friendly fire and that sort of thing. And then getting to those points or having those comms. And there's a piece there he spoke about the ninjas, being ninjas, him and Steve ninjaing their way forward. And just another key critical part of what I heard in terms of the gunfire that started kicking off between the inner cordon, I think it was, and the terrorists that were inside, or the group of people that were inside, and just having the wherewithal to pause and observe and just watch what's happening. It's just a testament to the skill, the experience of these guys, of the operators, of Jamie, of the team, to not go start cracking rounds off and then having multiple fronts, and then potentially maybe not having the clear lines of communication, which he's emphasized so far a number of times in this piece that he's retelling in terms of the event itself, the incident or the attack. What else did I have? Observing the chaos, hard targeting. So yeah, hard targeting, basically just moving short, sharp bursts, moving preferably from cover to cover, not just concealment, and trying to get to a position or to wherever the friendly forces are. He spoke about trying to not look down at my notes too much. He spoke about the security guard, and full credit to him, given what had happened and the state that he was in. So really cool to hear Jamie acknowledge that security guard and the event that he's just had to go through, and especially for neutralizing that terror threat. So he spoke about once they got to a certain stage, they sort of gravitated naturally to the left, and they went past an internet room. I'm not sure when that happened, but unfortunately there appeared to be a dead guest in there who was just in the middle of doing their email. So yeah, no doubt heartbreaking stuff as they're going through. They're there with the intent. I did hear him mention, sorry, that just jogs my memory now, before all of this, when they got comms, that they said that they were waiting for Jamie and his team, and that he said it gave him joy, like real joy. Joy, and as he mentioned, in the sense that, they're going to get amongst it, because people, that's what they joined for. Whether you like that or not, that's why people join the special forces, to get amongst and go do jobs that, you know, other people aren't trained for or aren't prepared for or are not willing to do. Does that make them bad people? No, it doesn't. You'll have your own perception and opinion of that, and if it is such that you feel that way, hey, that's fine. That's your decision. The comments are left on for you to add what you feel. Whether or not I respond to you, you know, if you take offense to me not responding to you or responding to you just as respectfully as I can, you know, that's up to you. I'll probably, we'll leave that there. But there's real genuine intentions of these operators that are looking to serve in these units, from my experience anyway. And speaking for myself, I know I know what my intentions were going into the unit, and they weren't sinister, if that makes sense. Definitely about trying to help other people, definitely about trying to serve as best as I can and be surrounded by just incredible people. So that's that piece for me. So yeah, just me giving my take on when Jamie spoke about the joy. Last part that I'll share before I hit play again and we let him carry on a bit more. Not carry on, speak a bit more about the event that happened, about this attack, is just in and around the massive amount of information, not only at the TOC that he mentioned, the Tactical Operations Centre, but also now the radio communication, depending on how frequently they're on that. Then you've got the observation and the physical situation itself of what's happening and taking in that information visually, audibly, you know, just everything, all the information coming at through a whole bunch of different angles. And then to be getting to the stage where he's in the contact and Steve's there confronted face to face. Steve puts rounds into that person, but the adrenaline or whatever that happened, you know, caused that guy to be able to keep going and ran to the top, or ran away. Sounds like he's making his way to the top, while then covering fire comes and then a grenade gets thrown down. And it's funny, the piece that, now it's funny, the piece that Jamie speaks about and the way he describes it, it was like the grenade that was dropped down was on a piece of string and just sort of followed Steve around. Thank goodness it didn't kill him in that incident. He still got fragged up pretty bad though from the sounds of things. But as Jamie described, Steve being the hunter and being the person that's always going to get up the front every time, I'm not surprised that he shook that off as well as he could and then cracked on with the fight. Yeah, but just amazing so far in terms of, and over the page, luck. I think in every aspect of life, right or wrong, whether you agree with me or not, there's an element of luck. And for them to come across those fire stairs fire stairs. What did I put down? Fire stairs. So I'm not going to rewind it. Hopefully that's what he said. The fire stairs, you know, that would have been like a bit of that would have been a real happy moment, I would imagine. Yes, we've found them. They've got no plans for the building. It's been many years since Jamie has been back there, and yeah, for them to stumble across that without any plans of the building at this stage, and the need to be flexible, the need to improvise as they need to, the need to adapt to what's happening or the situations as they come across them, and then working towards trying to overcome all of that. It's a testament to the process and why selection courses are the way they are. And they're intended to weed out people that may not necessarily be able to take on a whole bunch of information and make good decisions under stress, under pressure, while you're tired, with all eyes looking at you, with your own self-talk, with people dropping around you in terms of dropping off the course or feeling in physical discomfort, pain, etc., or people that may be challenging you because they're upset and they don't like what it is that you're doing. Selection courses include and incorporate all of that sort of stuff for reasons like this, and then some. So yeah, awesome to hear Jamie speak about this so far. I'm not sure what you think of this approach to me giving the reaction, but hopefully you get something out of it. So anyway, I'm going to play this for a little bit longer, and then give a wrap up for this part.
So he went down for a bit, and so we had a man down in the corridor, uncleared. We had a gun battle above us, and we're taking grenades. And so I got a couple of the guys just to get a beat on whoever was above us and start engaging. And then I was yelling out to Steve because we needed to get him back with the rest of the group on an uncleared floor. So I started yelling out, took a while. And then all of a sudden the gunfire stopped above us because he'd been engaged. The guy above us had been engaged. And we called him out and got a bit of covering fire going, and then sort of pulled him back to us and decided, probably best that we try another entry. And so, and then we sort of reorientated ourselves down on the I think it was the third floor we started moving back to. The guy that got shot in the initial engagement was Steve, from the terrorist perspective, ran all the way up with covering fire from his mate at the top. And well done, hats off. Well done. And then jumped out off the top of the elevator there, where the entry goes. The fire stairs into the top of the roof. Fell over, and we all saw this on the ISR recording that we had. A mate of his came over, talked to him, and they must have been talking about whether he's going to detonate himself. And he probably said, "Yes, I'm going to detonate myself." And then his mate ran around the side of the entry to the, because it was essentially a shed out on top of the roof there.
Yeah.
Ran around behind it, started running, and he timed it really well, because by the time the guy cleared past the shed, he was in a bit of open ground, so he detonated and he killed them both. So he killed himself and he killed his mate. He killed his mate as well. So he did us a favour.
Yeah.
And probably at the same time confirmed killed the guy that was on the top of the at the top of the roof there, that was providing covering fire down for his mate. So yeah, that was a good thing for us that he did. So we disappeared down to the third floor, I think it was, and started making our way to the other side of the building. At the same time, we started clearing as many as we could, guests down through the floors. And you got to understand at this point that the CAU were loosely clearing all the floors. I mean, we had 75 guys, so we had them retrospectively doing it behind us.
Yeah.
So we're focused on the top, and they were focused on starting to do sequential clearance up the up through the hotel there.
And can I just confirm, Jamie, you didn't really have, you have an intent, you didn't have a mission set. Like our job was rescue the hostages. Was your job to hunt down the bad guys and the other guys coming behind you, where it's trying to collect as many guests as possible?
Yeah. We're literally flying by the seat of our pants the whole way. You got to throw the playbook out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I'm not giving anything away, because everything we did was just a mismatch of a whole lot of things that have been taught and experienced in my life. We just had to deal with what was in front of us and deal with it really quickly. And the main thing was getting these guys in front of us and not doing bad things to the hotel guests, which is what they're potentially going to do, get them out, maybe kill them, maybe throw them off the roof. So
I'm going to pause that there, because it's on 30 minutes there, and it's on about 30 minutes, just over 30 minutes and 33 seconds here. Yeah, man, a heck of a lot more when he's talking about that initial first contact with them, with Steve and the attacker, the suicide vest person. That person doing them a favor. I love I'll talk a bit about the way Jamie's communicating. Like, I don't know him personally, but I have met him, and I knew of him when I was in battalion. Seeing him and the way that he holds himself, and having done a reaction to his other interview that he did on Radio NZ, I think it was the 30-minute one, and then seeing him here, it's just it may come across as very matter of fact, and I think as you listen to Jamie, like you can, that's just his personality, and it's awesome. He seems very calm, seems very measured. He's clearly very professional about what it is that he's articulating and speaking about, but he's also got that sense of humor that you see interjected at times, when like the grenade piece that he spoke about, when he's talking about the suicide bomber that got to the top. He's acknowledged him, hey, full credit to him, well done. But he's talking about then the guy that went away, they may have been talking, he runs around, he goes, he did us a favor. You can see a bit of a wry smile and stuff there. It definitely made me smile, because I could appreciate what, I don't know where they saw that, when they saw that. Maybe it was after the whole attack, or whether it was they withdrew back to the third floor he mentioned, and then maybe they saw something there. But I can see that how grateful you would be that something like that happens and, reduces the numbers of the threat. The other things that stand out for me in this last part was Damian interjected well to ask that question in terms of their role and Damian's role in his time with the counter-terrorist group or squadron. I'm not sure of the exact name for it here within NZ, but his time there, their mission to rescue the hostages, to save the hostages, and him asking Jamie what their mission set was. I love Jamie's response, and you got to, in that case, you're throwing the playbook out the window and you're moving to the threat. And the threat was those people up on, or the terrorists, the attackers, the suicide bombers, whatever you want to call them, that were in that hotel up on the roof. And not only were they sending lethal rounds, etc., out into what I imagine would be a pretty open area. So it's not just a military compound. It's a neighborhood. It's a place where civilians and people and families and that live. So that's been dished out that way. Could have hurt or hit anybody, not just soldiers that are trying to suppress the enemy that are there. And Jamie and his team are moving to that threat. And then cool to hear about the 2 squadrons or whatever it was, the other 75 others coming up behind them and clearing the rooms, which is, man, there's a lot happening in there, and just sort of reinforces my personal, somewhat selfish desire to want to, just to see a movie of that. It doesn't need to be, and this is where I think it would be cool. You have people like Jamie and other members of that team that were involved in that as the advisors for it, so that it doesn't get blown out of proportion and then adding all this other stuff that potentially just didn't happen at all, and or that doesn't need to happen. Like the actions and what happened there on this particular attack and the conduct of Jamie and his team is enough. It's more than enough. Like you can hear it now, the chaos and everything that's happening. I'm visualizing in my head all of that stuff, the getting the information, having the conversation. I think you mentioned or spoke about being rudely rudely had his sleep disrupted and needed to get up and then get over to the TOC. He put his slippers on and a gown and made his way. So just those little pieces, like all those little bits and pieces when he's speaking, it's sort of playing out in my head. And yeah, I just think it'd be cool to see a movie of that from a Kiwi perspective, whether it's done locally or some small scale. It doesn't have to be a big fancy thing, but if somebody was to do that, I think Taika Waititi is the man. I mentioned him already, but it'd be cool if he did something like that. Plus he's got lots of connections, but as long as it was including and involving people like Jamie, if he was willing to do that, that is as well, and other operators that were part of that, so that it's authentic, so that it's genuine, so that it's not blowing up to be this thing that it wasn't, just to try to make it more exciting. War's not about excitement and that sort of thing, and I've sort of touched on that. That's not why my thoughts are there around that. I just think it would be really cool to see from the perspective, much like his Serviceman J book, which I touched on earlier. He's spoken about his book, and it sort of allows the reader to sort of sit on his shoulder and be taken through. I haven't read the book yet, but I've heard him speak about this. Allows the reader to sit on his shoulder and be taken through what he's seeing and what's happening. And so I think from that perspective, it would be interesting and helpful in many ways, helpful for individuals to, is that really what you want to do? Do you want to train and prepare and do selection to potentially go into conflicts like that? Or to just go, hey man, far out, I definitely wouldn't want to do that. It's good to know and to see, or whatever the case might be, but I'm not interested in doing that. So I think there's some value in it, some education in it. And for me personally, it would be really impactful and I think meaningful to potentially a lot of Kiwis as well, to see something like that. And even with our Australian brothers, with the VC winners and that sort of stuff, I don't know if things have been done. I don't think there has been. I haven't done any research to actually look, to be honest. And I guess it would need to be done with their permission. but it would be, it would be helpful. That's my humble opinion anyway, for what it's worth. Anyway, that's that. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I'm putting it up based on some of the feedback that has been given. Would love to hear your feedback if this is maybe a preferred way of the reactions, or do I just go back to doing what I was doing before? Open to learning, open to hearing your feedback, your criticism, whatever that may be. I'll take it and look to try to process it as well as I can. So thank you very much for your time once again. As always, thank you very much for your kind support. I am sincerely, truly blown away by the growth of my small channel, and yeah, it's because of you that take the time to come here to my channel in the first place, that take the time to comment, that take the time to either like it or subscribe. Man, just very, very grateful. So thank you all very, very much. I know I say that repeatedly, but it is genuine and it is sincere, and you warrant hearing my thanks, I think anyway. So in saying that, whatever challenges, obstacles, trials you may be going through, man, just please stay in the fight. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep turning up each day. Better days are ahead. I don't know when they'll come, but they will come. Just stay consistent and keep turning up. Better days will come. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Go always a little further. Thank you once again. And remember, who dares wins. And until the next video, a big man away from me to you.